Hey, hi everyone. My name is Madeline Welsh. Um, I am going to be presenting my second case study. Um, so let's get started. So for client information, for the purpose of this presentation, we'll be using an anonymous name. We're going with Velma. So the client's age is 5 years old. Her diagnosis is autism spectrum disorder, and she does also suffer from seizures. Her behavior of concern is currently Velma was eloping during session, and then disruptive behavior started to happen soon after. And this disruptive behavior could be anything from like knocking things off the counter, off, throwing items off items, going into the fridge and dumping out leftovers, uh, pouring drinks, stuff like that. Some other important information is if mom did not provide attention when Velma eloped, that's when the client would engage in the disruptive behavior and attempt to gain attention. Um, Velma is also nonverbal and communicates with a PEC system. So, operant extinction. This is going to be discussing task list item B9. So the definition of that real quick is withholding all reinforcement from a previously reinforced behavior maintained by its consequences. So in this case, the previous reinforced behavior is the elopement. Mom would give attention every time every time she eloped. After conducting an FBA to determine the function of the behavior was actually indeed attention, planned ignoring along with a DRA was selected as the intervention. So mom would often provide the attention of giving her attention in hopes of stopping the behavior. And then when she ended up stopping, she would continue to do that in order to prevent the disruptive behavior. However, this just ended up reinforcing all the behaviors and increasing their frequency. So with planned ignoring, mom would ignore all behaviors unless they were harmful to the child, to anyone else, like that. The next thing we're going to discuss is whether the behavior was socially mediated. This is task list item B7. We're going to say yes, absolutely. The behavior occurred whenever mom was physically around but not available. So for example, it happened most often during her ABA sessions, OT sessions, speech therapy sessions, all of which mom attended, but was either busy working from home or was encouraged to kind of like observe from the side. The client became used to this normal of having mom home. And then when mom eventually went back to work, despite working from home, she still expected mom to be available throughout the day. So this is going to be discussing the intervention and reinforcement. So planned ignoring was taught to all household members for the elopement and disruptive behaviors. A DRA was also implemented as well for the elopement. So using PECs, client would man for mom and then begin reinforcement. And eventually the reinforcement was faded using a schedule of reinforcement. I don't really recall which, but this is kind of bringing up task list item B8 because the conditioned reinforcement, which I'm honestly not quite sure if mom would be considered a conditioned reinforcer, but that's what my guess is. And then eventually we also use generalized reinforcement with that faded schedule with the social attention. She was being told, even when she was denied access to mom, once we switched to the reinforcement schedule, she was still being provided like verbal praise when correctly using the PEC system. All right, this presentation is going by quick. So how is stimulus control considered? And this is task list item B10. So we realized that when Velma's mom was not physically around, the client didn't engage in these behaviors. And we discovered this through the FBA as the teacher was contacted, and the teacher at her school reported no behaviors whatsoever. So mom was really the key point. She acted different for mom than she did with anyone else. So the second she got home from school while mom was still working, the behaviors would start. And then the frequency of these behaviors would drastically increase when breaks like spring and summer break occurred, as mom would be physically home but not socially available. I should mention that this client is a past client. I am not quite sure how it's going now, but from what I could tell, the intervention was indeed successful for the most part. I think some of the challenges were that, again, there were multiple people in the household that had to be taught the plant ignoring, and plant ignoring can be so hard to do. And then another challenge was that mom specifically really struggled with it. And I feel that's pretty normal. But yes, that is case study number 2. Thank you.